welcome to the ARMA International web seminar titled Grant Thornton Presents SharePoint plus Next Page.
So this is, again, kind of a central place where I can go to get access to all of my sites without necessarily having to bookmark or try to remember URLs and so forth. We've also built some community around this, which we're hoping helps to kind of reinforce the stickiness of what we're proposing and rolling out here. I don't have a slide here, but just to briefly mention it, we've created what we call the Collaboration Cafe, and that is a central place that actually we'll link to from Collaboration Center, which provides end users training information. It provides a place for site administrators to get together and share best practices and share information about their experiences. It provides information on compliance. So, you know, this whole C3 concept of cleanup and archival and so forth, we've got policy and procedure information centrally located there. And so we're trying to build some community around this as well, again, all in the context of trying to drive adoption and you know, raise those compliance percentages and reduce the amount of content that we're hanging on to that we shouldn't be. So that in general, although very briefly, kind of gives you some context of the overall approach that we've taken. I'll now turn it back to Sid because I'd like her to maybe spend a few minutes walking through the specifics around the next page piece in particular, as this obviously is a very critical part of this for us in regards to how we, in the end, are able to enforce the cleanup as well as the archival process on the back end. So Sid, I'll turn it back to you.
Thanks, Sean. So as you can see, Grant Thornton has done an amazing job of working through this and figuring out how it's going to work in their form and then applying the technology. And so, as Sean said, as they create these SharePoint sites and documents start getting passed through those and users do what they just normally do, i.e. work on their machine, send via email, next page is basically tracking. It's doing exactly what Sean said. It's like this GPS tracking device where it understands exactly how documents are getting created and all of their locations. So in the screenshot that you see there, you can see what's happening behind the scenes for these users is as this agreement document gets created, and there's 8 copies there, it's simply tracking where those documents are, what they get renamed to, where their locations are, and understanding how they all fit together. So you can see here, if you look at that agreement document, you look where it's located, you can see it shows you that there's 2 copies that are sitting in Outlook. One happens to be an inbox and one in the sent items. That someone saved a copy to a removable key drive. There's a copy sitting out there on a USB key drive. There happen to be 5 copies of this document that are sitting on the user's specific hard drive. Could be in various locations. In this case, it's showing you they're all in one common folder. And it also knows, as Sean mentioned, which one of these sit in SharePoint and how they got to where they're going. And so what's happening is it's just really tracking all of these documents no matter where they go, so that at the end of that engagement, at the end of that project, all of those documents can be successfully cleaned up. Because what's happening on the server side is Grant Thornton has policies that talk about how they're going to handle the cleanup process. This happens to be an example policy, but as those policies get created at the end of that audit, they have a specific time period by which they're required to go through and have users clean up documents and submit those to the archive and then save those. And the rest of those, as Sean mentioned, should be disposed of. In the case that he gave the example of, right, there's a couple of thousand documents that need to be disposed of and only a handful of those that have to be saved. So these policies get created in order to do that. And so the interaction that they want is, hey, send the users an email and give them a list of all of the documents that they need to clean up and their location and help them facilitate those for final submission and cleanup. And so what happens from the user perspective is that the user gets an email, looks something like this, that has an attachment in there, and when a user double-clicks on that attachment, they are given a complete list of all documents related to that engagement, their locations, how they're related to each other, and then the ability right from this interface to clean those documents up or save them and move those into their archive. And so those users can simply select those, say, 10 documents that they need to save and select all of the rest and destroy them. And they never have to go to all of those distributed locations. This is providing them a complete interface into all locations, including SharePoint, including email attachments, including their hard drives, including USB key drives, and it's providing them that complete ability to say, great, we're now ready to clean up. And as Sean talked about the C3, it really addresses their entire concerns and challenges they faced around cleaning up and allows them to drive to that 90% compliance, because now that 90% of documents that are working papers are no longer a concern, and as an organization they can track and see who's actually in compliance. And the system, over time, depends on how, over time, what Grant Thornton deems necessary from the business perspective, but they can be as aggressive or as lightweight as they want in the application of policy. So they could say, hey, after 90 days, we're going to automatically move all that information from your machine and automatically delete it and tell you where to go find it. Or they can just know that users still have copies of those. And that becomes a really powerful way in order to monitor the compliance that they need to across the information in the organization. Sean, do you have anything else to add there?
No, that was great.
And then the other side of that is over time they're going to monitor compliance. They're going to see those reports that say, hey, for these specific engagements, these are how many documents were out there, these are how many, this is when we sent the request for them to clean up, and this is who has responded, so that the organization can take appropriate action in real time in order to modify those business practices and drive compliance. So just in summary, I think Sean did a fabulous job of sharing with everyone what are those drivers behind, how the challenges that they were facing and the solution that they came up with. And he talked a lot about the fact that it really is around this reducing operational costs, controlling the cost and risk of e-discovery, because it is very expensive and costly once you get there, and the best way to handle that is before you're ever faced with that litigation. And then really ensuring compliance. I thought it was interesting that when we did that poll at the very beginning, that over 43% of you said that driving compliance with existing policy was one of your big drivers for an initiative in 2009. And Sean echoed that, and that's true in how they're addressing this and how they're looking at the compliance and the reporting and the understanding of how to work with their user base. And that's really where they've come out and that they're driving, obviously, to be successful as they roll this out with that combined solution, because they considered all facets of how users work and the technologies that can fit into that, allowing users really to do what they do so well, which is creating content, but then addressing the business initiatives for cleanup and compliance on the back end of that. Sean, do you have anything else you want to add in summary?
No, other than the fact that, again, we're still in the fairly early stages, and we've seen such compelling results even at this point that this is something we're very, very excited about. We appreciate Sydney and NextPage's support in this process as we've gone through this. It's something that we're very excited about, and we're, again, seeing some great results so far.